Another way to create points that I want to talk about right now is a concept called object snaps. Anytime you're prompted to pick a point, like with the line command, and I'll type in an L and hit enter. That's my favorite way of getting into the line command. Because we have this little tool turned on down here, object snaps, I can get close to an object and that little square shows up, and that square is a symbol for endpoint. And if you sit there just a little bit longer, the actual tooltip of endpoint pops up. I can then pick, and even though my crosshairs is down and a little bit to the right of that endpoint, because the symbol is there, when I pick, it'll absolutely snap to that endpoint. I get close to the object, endpoint shows up, I pick, and I've got it. I hit enter, and I'm done. Now, how does it know to do endpoint versus any other possible points that it might be able to snap to? If I use the little drop-down arrow next to the symbol for object snaps, and I pick it, up pops a list of all the different possible places on objects that we can snap to. Out of the box, AutoCAD has endpoint, center, intersection, and extension set. I feel that midpoint is very, very powerful. I need that, so I'm going to pick midpoint, and midpoint toggles on. I also think that extension is kind of obtrusive. It kind of gets in the way until we understand it a little bit better. So for right now, I'm going to toggle that off. And I like endpoint, midpoint, center, and intersection. Those I like to have set as what are called running object snaps. They're always working for me in the background. So I'll just pick to make that list go away. And now when I grab my line command from the ribbon this time, and I go near an object's endpoint, it shows up. I mean, no different. We left that toggled on. But I also have midpoint available now. And if I get close to this object, whoops, we'll come back to that. If I get close to this object, you can see the little triangle shows up, and that stands for midpoint. When I pick, it'll snap to the midpoint of that object. I'll hit enter to get out of the line command. Endpoint and midpoint are working for me. Center is also working for me. If I draw a line, you can see that if I get close to this, the center object snap pops up right at the center of that circle. And even though I'm not anywhere near there, since center is showing up and I pick, I will snap to the center. I get over here and I can snap to this object's midpoint, and we hit enter, and we've got a line from center to midpoint. The other one that we've got set and running for us is intersection. Intersection is any place that two objects meet, and I have two lines intersecting right here. So if I grab line again and I get close to where those intersect, it's kind of hard to see. Every time I demo this, I always end up with the lines that I'm using kind of in the same general area as the X that shows up. But hopefully you can see that green X showing up. And of course you can see the word intersection showing up. And if I pick, I'm not on either one of those endpoints, and I'm not at the midpoint of anything. I'm just where those two objects happen to intersect. And I'll just go up here to this arc. And arc has an endpoint also. So lines have endpoints, arcs have endpoints, circles have centers, lines have midpoints. I'm going to hit enter, which I've not pointed out yet, but enter at a blank command prompt repeats the last command. The last command that we used was line, so if I hit enter, it's going to repeat the line command. And I can get close to this object, and midpoint shows up. I'm closer to the midpoint than I am to the endpoint, so midpoint shows up. And there we go. You can also see that the little center toggle showed up for that, and I can now pick the center. When you're on an arc, you got to be a little bit more accurate with your pick, so to speak, to get to the center, because when you're on the arc, you're typically going to be closer to the endpoint or the midpoint than the center. So I'm going to draw another line, and I'm going to start it at that center. I could do to the endpoint, but I just want to show you this line. If I get close to here, endpoint shows up. I'm kind of, the tooltip is kind of showing up on the top of it. There's midpoint. Let's go over here. There's endpoint. But did you notice that that little ticky showed up right at the end of that line? Because that's the center of that arc. And I can get right on there. Well, endpoint is kind of there, so it's going to give me that. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to erase this. We haven't talked about the erase command, but we'll get there. And I'll draw the line again, and I get close to this, and there's that tick. Of course, my crosshairs is closer to the endpoint. I can't really get my crosshairs on the object and closer to the center unless endpoint and midpoint were toggled off, and then it would snap to the center. But that ticky shows up, and now I can go close to it, and it'll still grab that center point, and there we have it. All right, so, let's talk about this. Those are what we call running object snaps. Because we've got this button turned on and we have these things set, anytime AutoCAD is prompting me to pick a point, they're working for me in the background. If, let's just say this is kind of a rare occurrence, but let's say for some reason or other I just wanted to pick an arbitrary point inside this little mini triangle right here. If I grab my line command and I move over close to here, you can see that, midpoint showing up, intersect. I can't not have an endpoint or an object snap showing up right now. So what I can do is to temporarily toggle off all running object snaps. If I hit the F3 key on the keyboard, object snaps are off, and now I can go ahead and pick this, and now I can I can pick object snap, or hit F3, hit F3 again, and now all of my object snaps are working for me again. Kind of a rare instance, but I just wanted to let you know that F3 toggles off the running object snaps. If you look at this button right here, if I hit F3, that goes off. If I hit F3 again, that goes on. I like to use the keyboard when I can, but if I wanted to, let's say, draw a line from anywhere in space right here, and I wanted to get inside there and not be on an object snap, I could go all the way over here and toggle off my running object snaps and then pick a point inside there and then go all the way back over here and turn them back on. But that F3 and pick and then F3 again is a little bit quicker. All right, one more thing that I wanted to show you is what are called object snap overrides. Object snap overrides mean that when I don't want to use endpoint, midpoint, intersection, or center point, and I wanted to do something like, let's say I wanted to draw a line from anywhere, here, to a point perpendicular to that line. What I can do is hold the Shift key down and right click, and up comes my object snap override menu with all of those object snaps, just like they were showing in this list over here, showing up. And now I can pick perpendicular, and now perpendicular is the only thing working. It's overriding all those running object snaps. I can get close to this object, and you get that little right angle symbol, and when I pick, I will have drawn a line from there to a point perpendicular to that line. I can draw another line from here, from this endpoint, Shift right click, I can go perpendicular to this line over here, and now I'm 90 degrees from here to here and 90 degrees from here to here. Let's do that one more time. Line from anywhere in space. I also want to show you that you can right click and pick object snap overrides, and they're there. So you don't have to hold the Shift key down. The Shift key just keeps this menu from popping up and gets you right directly into here. whatever's comfortable for you. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, and there's perpendicular. Another tool for perpendicular is that you can use perpendicular when you're going towards an arc or a circle. If I go from here and I do shift right click perpendicular, it's going to go directly towards the center and stop at the edge of the circle. If I happen to be in the circle with my line command and I pick right click perpendicular, if I go over here, it's going to kind of like emanate from the center and go towards the outside and give me a line that's the other endpoint is kind of like directed towards the center. If I draw a line one more time and I go from like right here and I go shift right click perpendicular, I can go up here and it's going to go like through the center point and stop at the edge of the circle. A lot of people don't know that, so keep that one in mind. Let's see. The last one I want to show you is something like, let's get rid of these lines because they are kind of confusing. I'm going to pick them and just hit the delete key just to clean that up a little bit. I want to show you that you can actually get to what I like to call the perspective intersection. Let's say I wanted to draw a circle whose center point, because there's that magic word point, just like end point of a line, center point of a circle, when it's prompting for point, I can do a shift right click and let's say I canceled out of there, I'm sorry. Let's say I wanted to draw my circle center point right where this line, if it were to extend itself, intersected that line. There's not a physical intersection existing right now, so my intersection running object snap won't work. But if I pick circle and do my shift right click, if I ask for intersection explicitly from the override menu, now I can kind of turn this into a two-part pick. This is another one of those that not many people know. If I get close to here, you see that the extended intersection shows up, that X with the dot, dot, dot. There's no intersection right there, but it kind of knows what I'm trying to get it to do. It says, okay, I'll give you the intersection of this line and some other line. Now you got to specify another spot for this. You can see the cursor down below says and, the intersection of that object that you picked and now you get close to another object and there's where that would intersect, and there's the center point, and I'll just pick any old radius to get you there. Okay. You can also do the extension of an arc. If I wanted to draw another circle where this arc extended at that same radius would meet that, I can do circle, shift right click, intersection, that object and this object, and there's where that would intersect, and there's my circles. Okay. If you got a couple of lines, let's see. Let me just draw a line out here, like that, and another one like that. And we'll draw a circle again. Let's say I wanted to draw a circle where this line intersects that line. Shift right click, intersection, bam, bam. There's my circle center point where that line would intersect on this line. And that line could be out in space. If I wanted to draw a circle where this line and this line might meet, if they were to intersect, circle, shift right click, intersection, this object and this object, and that's where they would intersection. So you can always override your running object snaps. You can set your running object snaps the way you want. Very often people will start with endpoint, midpoint, center, and intersection working for them, and then they'll get comfortable enough with it and they'll toggle on perpendicular, because we often have to do that. Perpendicular in the mix of all the other running object snaps can work. It does get a little confusing though, so I typically leave it off and then just ask for it with a shift right click when I really want it. Okay? And the only way you can get to the prospective intersection between objects is by using the intersection override. It will not work even though intersection is set as a running object snap.